said he is watching closely with deep concern for the country's socio-political stability and the seeming autocratic consensus spreading across different regions of the continent. The special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Ajurin Galali, briefed State House correspondents on the position of President Tinubu, who is also the chairman of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS.
Special advisor on media and publicity, Ajurin Galali, says the president, as a man who has made significant personal sacrifices in his own life in the course of advancing and defending democracy, is of the unwavering belief that power belongs in the hands of Africa's great people and not in the barrel of a loaded gun. And this is coming hours after Gabonese army officers under the aegis of the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions announced on national television they had overthrown the government of Gabonese President Ali Bongo Ondimba, who's been in power for 14 years, hours after he had been declared the winner in Saturday's elections. They said the vote results had been cancelled and all the institutions of the republic dissolved.
The president affirms that the rule of law and a faithful recourse to constitutional resolutions and instruments of electoral dispute resolution must not at any time be allowed to perish from our great continent. To this end, the president is working very closely and continuing to communicate with other heads of state in the African Union toward a comprehensive consensus on the next steps forward with respect to how the crisis in Gabon will play out, into how the continent will respond to the contagion of autocracy we are seeing spread across our continent.
President Bola Tinubu has had a conversation with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, where the two heads of state mutually agreed that the promotion and protection of constitutional democratic governance on the continent remains a priority.
Governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has commended Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, for her intervention in empowering women and other vulnerable groups in the society through her Renewed Hope initiative. Governor Sanwo-Olu stated this after paying a courtesy visit on the First Lady at the State House in Abuja. The interventions of the initiative in the education sector, a national scholarship program which was recently flagged off in Abuja with 43 beneficiaries from across the country, women ICT training and other empowerment programs in agriculture and social investment.
Encourage her on the Renewed Hope initiative, which we've all heard about, which is championing with a lot of the other first ladies, and of course the wife of the vice president, really just to encourage and to share the vision that she has for the Renewed Hope initiative, and just to talk me through, I mean, what kind of interventions they're looking at and how she's running a complementary role to what Mr. President is also doing, and I think it's great. You know, our own idea is not necessarily to begin to build brick and mortar, is really to be able to intervene, you know, in schools, you know, for people needing scholarship, in farming, you know, people needing implements, you know, seedlings, and also to be able to provide immediate succor.
Designer of Nigeria's national flag, Taiwo Akikume, has died at the age of 87. His death was announced by one of his sons, who posted it on social media. Akikume was a native of Abeokuta in Ogun State, but lived in Ibadan until his death. He started his career as a civil servant at the government secretariat Ibadan and later traveled overseas to study agricultural engineering at Norway Technical College. His entry was adjudged the best among about 2,000 entries submitted for Nigeria's national flag. in preparation for independence from British governance. The flag was officially hoisted on Independence Day on the 1st of October 1960 instead of the British Union Jack. Let's take a short break, and when we return, it will be time to speak with our guest of the day, who is a lawyer and political analyst, Cletus Oben, for discussion on APC and the inclusion challenge. Please stay with us. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're still watching Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. And now to our interview with the guest of the day. I am joined by a lawyer and political analyst, Cletus Oben, for discussion on the APC and inclusion challenge. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me. Some little correction. I am not a lawyer. I am a scholar.
So, the administration of President Tinubu is 3 months old in office. How will you describe the journey so far?
Well, it's been a journey of less than 100 days for a country in the throes of global economic meltdown, in a country bedeviled by the challenges that are now global and well-acknowledged economic crisis. We can say that it is a good start, but a stuttering start for that matter. Stuttering because of the misgivings and the high expectations of the person of Asiwaju. You remember that Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu came with a pedigree of a pro-democracy leftist who is well-furnished and a man known for justice and a talent hunter, whose attributes from the days of his governance and the leadership of the opposition until we became government in power in 2015 clearly indicates that what we are getting now is a return to the deficit in the reward for loyalty. That is a major, major crisis, and questions are going to be raised in the course of this discussion. And I come tonight not just as an APC person, but as a Democrat, as a progressive, and of the leftist notion that all hard work and loyalty must not only be serviced, but must be rewarded. We are not seeing that so far, and I imagine that this is just the first faltering steps to a better and greater inclusion of actors, active actors in the political scene. This has not been seen, and it is sending the wrong signals. And definitely, I want to see a listening Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as president listen to this call for him to reorder his priorities about those soldiers who stood in the war front and were biting the bullet for democracy, and who today are virtually almost being excluded, even up to the point of his own campaigns. They stood there for him. I might want to say, you might claim that it is early, but you will know a good day from the morning. What is about to happen now and what is happening so far is not what we want to see.
Before we get to that, I mean, we're coming back to that, but the president promised a government of national unity. Do you think this is being pursued?
He promised a government of national unity from a very reluctant and bitter, implacable opposition that have turned the guns on him and have entered the social media, which has become a major battleground, to the point that even his attempt and his goodwill is being not just abused, but abandoned. And I imagine that the government of inclusion, he has already started it. A young man by the name of Bosho came to the National Assembly and expected the National Assembly of 109 senators to take him on. He did not just say he didn't believe in the APC or the Asiwaju presidency. He said he does not even believe in Nigeria. So how do you bring such a person to come and prove the case why he didn't believe in Nigeria? Go and read all his tweets. Go and read his social media commentary. He didn't talk about party so that we say, okay, it is partisan. But he was talking about the country. You cannot come back to the same country and pretend that you want to be part of it. What they will want to do on a daily basis is to prove their theory right, that Nigeria cannot work. So you don't bring such people to come and work in your government. At best, if you think they are indispensable, you put them in some place where you can monitor them for a period and engage them in political quarantine. You quarantine them first in a corner to show that they are committed to the Nigerian cause first. Because there must be a Nigeria for you to claim that you are a Nigerian. And there must be a Nigeria for you to work for. But when you outrightly do not even believe in the Nigeria, and you give such people opportunities, you are telling the rest of the committed and patriotic Nigerians that there is no need to be patriotic, that there is no need to be committed, that the only way in which you can be engaged by the Nigerian state is for you to cause crisis, be disloyal, and be unpatriotic. That cannot be the quality of a patriot. That cannot be the quality of those who want to serve and want to see Nigeria grow and develop to meet its status as a giant of Africa and as one of the best economies that you can find in the world. That is not the quality of the kind of persons. When you feel that you are being hurt, you want Nigeria to go down and be liquidated. Then when you are being engaged, Nigeria becomes sufficiently viable for you to operate upon and then use the space that is provided by those who have made the sacrifice. This is what we are seeing. People like Ashwaju, people like us as young students, came out for democracy in 1993. In the 90s, we came out and insisted on democracy. At the end of the day, it is those who ask for it that are becoming victims. This cannot continue. This must not be seen from an Ashwaju. This must not be. I'm speaking this night, my mind, not because I'm hot. I mean, this is 2023. I've held no government appointment in the last 22 years. I've done no government contract. Cross-check and fact-check me. I have not. I've lived only on my talent and my skill as a scholar. That's what has brought me in and out of this country. So at no time should anybody imagine that you can only be patriotic when you think that you can benefit from the Nigerian state. We must first think Nigeria. In the last 5 years, I've not gone out of this country. In the last 5 years, we've been here trying to battle to stabilize the democracy that we promised Nigerians. And therefore, we want to make this point very clear, that we cannot bring those who don't believe us to come and implement our manifesto and our ideals, because they don't even believe in the first place. And I expect such people to say so when they are offered such appointment, to say, I don't believe you, I can't be. I did it before. I was being appointed a commissioner by a governor I didn't believe in my state. And I told him I cannot because I don't believe you. And I cannot now see anybody coming to tell us that Ashwaju cannot rule, Ashwaju is not fit, and then suddenly Ashwaju gives you an offer, and then you collect it and say that you are not going to work. You're only going to prove that Ashwaju is not correct, Ashwaju cannot do it. That's all you are going to come to do. So I don't believe, and I don't want to accept that loyalty should be rewarded by negligence. It should not be rewarded with negligence. And those who have been reluctant to work with you, political isolation cannot cure political apathy. Those who already do not believe in democracy are being encouraged not to say there is no reward in it. There is nothing to get from it. And when we say reward, we are saying we believe that this cause can be pursued, that the manifesto of APC can be used to improve and develop Nigeria and make Nigeria a better place and make Nigerians happy as we have promised. The People First agenda, the renewed hope. If there is renewed hope, then those who believe in it should be made to come and implement the manifesto of the party and the ideas of the president, who has been in the forefront of trying to pursue the manifesto of APC, and then the progressives in this country, who have fought all through the years, and for the first time in the history of the largest black nation on earth, took away a sitting government, and have proceeded to do that for 8 years, and we are now going to our, for our 24th year. We've done that for 8 years. We're now going for the next 16 years. And yet, we cannot be seen to drop those who fought and believe in this fight, in the struggle for a better Nigeria, under an ideology that is progressive. I know many people will tell you that Nigeria has no political ideology. It is not true. We have an ideology. A man like Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a man like Buhari, told you that he didn't believe in communism, but that when he believed only in communism, but that when Russia fell, USSR collapsed, that he now believes that there is democracy, and came out to contest the election in spite of himself and despite the conditions at that time. So, if by 2023 we are sitting here, I will please demand and request that Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the spin doctors, those who are around him, should not make the rest of us start regretting that we fought this fight for others to come and take it. It is not correct. And I'm saying this Because I can name names of people.
Mr. Cletus, you've raised some very valid points. Kindly hold on. You've raised some very valid points. But then, let's quickly talk about the president's cabinet. 45 ministers have been sworn in with different portfolios. How will you describe the composition
of the cabinet of the president? It is a mixed bag of the good, the bad, and the ugly. It is a mixed bag of the good, the bad, and the ugly. While it is good to reward political allies, it should not be done at the altar of national ideals. That is to say, the best hands must be brought. You can't reward them by patronizing them with contracts where they are competent. There are different areas in which you can also make them work in areas of their competence and the area of their expertise. They need not be in the cabinet of the president. A presidential cabinet member should be able to add value to whatever he is brought to do. Once that is lacking, you have no business there. So if you look at this cabinet, like I said, it is a mixed bag of the good, the bad, and the ugly. You can look up and see some of these people who have come here. Look at the Minister of Education, for example, Professor Tahir. Look at the young minister from Cross River State, Betta Edu. Her youthful exuberance notwithstanding, you can see that she has the pedigree.
Cletus, Mr. Cletus, in the course of this conversation, Mr. Cletus, in the course of this conversation, I would kindly urge you not to mention names. Please, let's stay on course. You can go ahead.
Say that some of the people, I agree with you, that I've been trying to avoid that. But let me say that in the cabinet, you have a mixed bag of the good, the bad, and the ugly. The reason being that some of the people, I have named one of them, but you say I shouldn't name, but some of those people who told us, I don't know, I'm a Catholic Christian, so we name names. When Prophet Nathan met with David, he called him and said, the man did this, and when the man said, David said, that man deserves that, he said, you are the man. He didn't say some people did this. He said, you are the man. You, the King David, you are the man. So I don't know how sometimes to play this. But because you call it politics, it is not chemistry, so we must have to play it the way that it is deserving. But I can tell you that some of the people in that cabinet have no business in that cabinet. I know that for sure. But I cannot fault the president. Maybe he has seen something that I don't see, and I didn't see. Being in front, he can see far better than me. He knows just we have done his background checks and brought them on. But from my little prism, as a public commentator and as a researcher, and as a person who is very unbiased about wishing Nigeria the very best, some of those people, very few of them, have no business in that place. But most of them, are properly placed. And the new ministries are going to be fantastic. And like I said, some of them are so fantastic. If you permit me, I'll call names of people who, being in this cabinet, already we are seeing the economy. Look at the way our economy is going on. Today we are dealing with digits. Today we are dealing with green on the stock market rather than the red and all that. So we have a lot of pluses within the first 100 days. We are now up to 100 days, and we are seeing a lot of policy changes that are impacting globally and nationally. Yes, the bite on us as individuals must come, because no pill that cures you can ever be sweet. It is always bitter. The pangs of birth do not prevent a woman from getting pregnant again. Therefore, we are going through a birth pang, and we have to swallow it, and with a great hope and renewed hope that something better will come out of what we are seeing today. The bitterness will not be forever. And let me conclude by saying that in this segment, that most of the legacy members of APC, those who founded AMPP, those who founded ACN, those who came from CPC, today are feeling the pain of negligence and abandonment, a sense of abandonment. That can be rekindled, because I know that the boards have not come out. I know that the commissions are still waiting there, and the agencies. So I expect that that will be used to remedy the seeming abandonment of those who feel they have power. From the campaigns, down to personal expenditure, down to state representation, down to recognition. Because all politics, all human activity is about recognition and nothing more. Otherwise, after your first degree, you have no business becoming a professor. But for recognition's sake, after winning the first election,
before the ministers came, we had the service chiefs. Before the ministers came, we had the service chiefs. How do you see the composition? And do you think the present crop of service chiefs have all it takes to defeat banditry and terrorism in the country?
I think that was one of the first signals from Ashwaju that he has come here to cure the suspicion, the mutual suspicion of ethnic and religious biases. The balance in the service chiefs was one of the master strokes that he ever gave signals, and that's what calmed down nerves. We had a 7-man service chief structure. Of that number, about 4 or 5 of them were Christians. That calmed the nerves of those who felt that there was going a Muslim ticket of PDP, of APC, was coming to make it impossible for a Christian to survive in Nigeria. Look at even their locations, the 6 geopolitical zones, apart from the North Central. And then came the master stroke of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation to calm down nerves in the North Central, where you had to get the SGF from, who is the engine room of all governments on earth. Therefore, the service chiefs were the first signals that Ashwaju came to cure the mutual suspicion of the ethnic nationalities that comprise Nigeria, with over 250 languages, nearly 300, with 3 or 4 major religions, up to the atheists. They were all accommodated in the service chiefs. And the ministerial list even shows more youths. There was so much of that. The youths were also included in that. And then, of course, what happened among the service chiefs is one huge cry that the cadre of service chiefs that were brought threw away so many senior officers of the Nigerian Army and the Nigerian Navy and the Nigerian Air Force out of the service. And in Nigeria, unfortunately, we don't have a reserve, where when you have a major crisis such as we had between 2017 and 2019, where the surge in insurgency and militancy and banditry was in the northeast and northwest, we needed the hands of reserves, people who had experienced wars, people who had gone to Liberia, people who had gone to Sierra Leone, to Sudan, to Libya, to Congo. Those Nigerian army officers are still alive and could bring a lot on the table. They are not given the opportunity because to even get one recruit in the Nigerian Army recruitment grounds in Zaria, one recruit in Nigerian Army costs so many millions. So when you now graduate so many from the NDA and send them on courses, and then at the prime when Nigeria needs them, they are retired, it also does not make well. So we must have to create, and in fact, the number of formations of the Nigerian Army is too small for us, for a country of over 250 million with the kind of security challenges we have. So the service chiefs have a duty to restructure and up the ante of the Nigerian military, such that we should have more army formations, more brigades. They are trying to do that, but it's not meeting up, and because the recruitment also is very slow. And at a time like this, we need a firm commander-in-chief. And I think Ashwaju will provide that, and he has demonstrated that by the quality and the spread, the religious, ethnic spread of the number of service chiefs that he brought in. So I think on that score, he got 100% from Nigerians, and that's why there was no comment, even from the opposition, on the composition of the service chiefs, unlike before, where it was seen to be tilted and skewed in favor of some ethnic nationalities and some religion. So for me, he did excellently well in the appointment of service chiefs. And that means that our security architecture, you can see the improvement since the service chiefs came in. See the improvement in the number of liquidation and elimination of the flashpoints of crisis, banditry, and even insurgency within the northern zones of Nigeria, north central, northeast. Yes, we've lost about 21 young officers recently in an ambush. An ambush can take even the bravest. For those of us who are from the forest of the Buki nation, we understand that even the bravest can be conquered by an ambush.
Right. One of the president's promises to Nigerians is to give the youth a voice in his administration. To what extent will you say he has done this?
Yes, I tried to delve into that, and I gave you a panoramic view of his cabinet when I told you that the youths, the women, and the professionals have been captured. This inclusion should be noted that at 36, you have a young person at 36, some of them are 41 and in their 40s, within the age bracket that the United Nations described as youth, we have a good number. And I'm not sure the youths are complaining. Presently, there's no Minister of Youth, and I'm very sure that Ashwaju will not go and bring a 70-year-old person to become the Minister for Youth. That place is vacant. It is not just the Minister of Youth. Look at the Minister for Sport. For example, look at all those places. Those places are square pegs in square hole, but a few of them, like I said, are going to be a big distraction. And like I know him, he's not going to just hire. He also has a penchant for firing without looking at it. Look at him in Lagos, you will see that, including his own deputies, he didn't spare them when he felt that they were no longer following and that they were no longer cooperating and they were not going to be useful in the journey to the progress of Lagos. He was not afraid of dropping them. So any minister who thinks that we are going to have permanent ministers like we had in the last regime, where ministers were grossly misconducting themselves and grossly underperforming, and they were still kept in office, even service chiefs, it took a national outcry, even from party members of APC, for them to be replaced, then clearly anybody who is in this government should know that it will not require 4 months, it will not require a time lag to take him out. So the composition presently, the youths, the women, and the professionals, these are the categories of inclusion. Even the people with disability, that is the physically challenged people, they are in this government. I saw them going for screening. All of you saw them. So you can then understand that Ashwadu has clearly fulfilled that part of it. But like I said, I disagree with those who held this country in contempt and have shown that they don't believe in this country. That is a quality that must prevail over any qualification. Your patriotism must be undiluted, must be 100% loyalty to country. Your oath of allegiance, your oath of office, all speak about your allegiance to Nigeria. And where you have demonstrated in the past, in writing, documentary evidence that you don't believe in the country called Nigeria, you have no business serving in any aspect of our national life. And that is where I disagree with those who have asked to go and sin no more. Because a leopard will not change his spots because there is heavy rain.
So talking about women representation in the cabinet, the women are asking for more. Do you think we can achieve the affirmative action which talks about women participation in government?
When you say women participation, especially in this cabinet, like I said, the youths among the women are there. The youths among the men are there. There are other areas in which women can become very important and relevant. There are agencies that are even more than ministries. I can name them for you that are existing. There are several agencies. We saw Dora Akunyili late, may her soul rest in peace, in NAFDAC. Even the Minister of Health didn't get the kind of attention that Dora Akunyili got. I can name more and more. So there are other areas in which the women can still be included. I am not sure that we are exhausted yet. But like I said, I'm only sounding out that the president of this country must remember that loyalty must be rewarded, loyalty must be serviced, because we still have a lot of work ahead of us. Those who have committed themselves and who have demonstrated an undiluted loyalty to this country and who have been seen and known to work for this country and for this party should not be allowed to be mocked, as it's about to happen in some states as we speak today. We just got the board of NDDC now. Protests are all over the country, all over the Niger Delta. Ondo is on the boil. Cross River is on the boil.
Mr. Cletus.
A lot of other such
Mr.
places.
Cletus, well, we will get there. But you've been talking about loyalty. Now, what more do you think the administration should do to ensure more inclusive governance?
By returning to the provinces, to the regions, to the zones, to the states. In states where you have, every state has a minister. So if it's about party loyalty, your minister should be able to tell you that. If it is about inclusion of party members who are loyal, the governors of the states should be able to do that. And there are other leaders who will now galvanize and mobilize other stakeholders to take a decision about a list. Because everybody cannot be appointed. Everybody cannot be patronized. But there are people whom you know will add value. And the only people who know that is their own people. So, like he did before, asking the governors to produce a list from their states, there's no way the governors will not know that. If the governor does not like certain people, there are other stakeholders that will remind that, look, we don't like the face of this man, but he can give us results at the national level. There must be a synergy between the center, which is Abuja, and the provinces, which is the state capitals, that is the governors. From the National Assembly members, through the ministers, down to the board appointments and appointees, There should be a synergy in order to bring the best for the people of each state. And that is why there is a quality of states. That should not in any way mean that they should play down the issue of merit. There is no community I have maintained. There is no community that has a residency and permanent abode for quality and merit. Every community has its own merit. Where you cannot find a cow, please look for a goat in that community. Where you cannot find a goat, look for a cock. There is no way you can say that every community or everywhere do not have people. There are people who may not be schooled, but are sufficiently exposed. So we cannot sacrifice that in balancing this country and making the country one and making people feel part of the government and part of this country. There must be that equality of states and equality of persons and reward for loyalty and commitment and dedication above everything else. So religion, ethnicity, fine, is in balance with the provision of the constitution that every state must produce. But in the appointment of other ministries, departments, and agencies of government and commissions, boards and commissions, there must be that strengthening and there must be that synergy consciously. The situation where National Assembly members are going one way and then the governor and his state executive and cabinet is going the other way, where we used to know Lagos and Calabar front in the NDDC in Cross River and such other places like Benue, where you have Lagos versus Makurdi. Those things can no longer work in an era of technology, in an era of need and emergency, such as we find ourselves today. We must have a synergy between all appointed and elected officers. Stakeholders must be committed. We cannot come together and win election. And when it comes to the distribution of patronage, you begin to be selective. Then 2003 is gone. 2007 is coming. So everybody must be conscious of that. The same energy we are using to have put this party in government, that same energy should also be utilized to make the government sustained. We can do that. We can afford it. The exclusion policy in which people who work so hard, people who lost almost everything are being put in the front, while those who won everything are put in the back. That must stop. That is not encouraging. That does not in any way represent democracy. If there must be democracy, it must also trickle down from reward to hard work, from loyalty to commitment. So if you didn't win election, will you be talking about patronage?
So let's get to some of the issues.
And I imagine that this country will be better off if we have this. We must synchronize this. We must bring this to bear. So as far as I'm concerned, and as far as I know of today, I think that the states, the national, the presidency must consciously coordinate the well-being. Where there is no cooperation in the states, even the national will suffer, because whatever you do in the state will not show. I know several projects that were done in this country by the last administration that were never known because there was no publicity for them. That is because some states were grumbling and some persons were grumbling and ensured that nothing ever was publicized. And of course, you should know that in a democracy, one of the bastions of democracy is a free press. It's a free press. And that free press is today
now, some
existing.
people
So
are complaining about
I know the abuse of the social media. I know the use and abuse of the social media. But the regular media have been doing so well. And I imagine that they will be sustained. Thank God the president is himself a media owner. So we are very sure that the media will get greater role and get to play greater and better role in the future within this government.
Okay. Now, let's get to some of the issues that have been raised. I mean, some people are complaining about inclusion of former River State Governor Nyesom Wike in the cabinet being a non-APC member. Is this justified?
Well, that question, for me, the political game is a game. The political game is a game of give and take. Like I asked the last question, if you don't win the election, you cannot be asking to be included. We know the results we got from River State. It is the first of its kind ever since 1999 that the opposition will get that kind of result. It didn't just happen. We've had our members sitting down there in Port Harcourt and we never got any result. Even when we had the DG from that state, we know the result we got in 2018 and 2019. We know the results. So if we had a change of result, it didn't happen by accident. So if Wike played a role in that manner, and has demonstrated with his project in Port Harcourt that he is a go-getter and can add value to this government. I remember the night of glamour on the 2nd of July, 2007, when Ashwaju was handing over to Fashola, all of us state chairman of ACN were invited to Lagos. On the 5th, we came to Abuja for a meeting of ACN. We were told by the Musa Yar'Adua government that they want government of national unity. The intention was to douse the tension that came from that election. So if in 2023 Ashwaju is reenacting that and goes out to also demonstrate it, I imagine that our democracy is growing because a man like Wike can add value to our system. But I will plead with him that the conquistador posturing of poaching, intruding, and interfering in other states can generate bad blood. Everybody should limit himself within his territory because man naturally is a territorial being. You don't walk into an man's house and begin to dictate what happens there. You can give assistance to your brother. That does not mean you should go and take his wife. No matter how lame you think he is, no matter how poor you think he is, no matter how lazy you think he is, that you assisted him to clear his farm does not mean that you should go and take his wife.
All right, Mr. Cletus, let's take a short break. I've been speaking with Cletus Obun, a scholar and political analyst, and tonight we focused on the APC and the inclusion challenge. We'll take a break now, and I will be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. This is Politics Tonight, where we dig beyond the headlines. And tonight we focused on the APC and the inclusion challenge with a scholar and political analyst, Cletus Obun. Mr. Obun, now the president approved appointment of new board of NDDC, and some groups in Cross River protested, rejecting Asu Oku Okang because he's a PDP chieftain. Now, why should that be causing problem?
Well, first of all, you heard me speak about former Governor Wike and his contribution to APC and why he should be rewarded and can be included. First, he has a pedigree of a performer. And in this particular instance, those who are members of APC, myself inclusive in Cross River State, and I think that in all good conscience, some people must have to play the kind of politics that tells the truth. That is to say, the case in Cross River State, like Ondo State, is the case of a revolt against negligence. You cannot just win an election, and you have, Cross River State has over 41,000 members. 41,000, I say over 400,000 membership of APC alone. Even within that same local government. I will give you 3 instances and why that matter is very vexatious. The governorship candidate of PDP in my state, is from that local government. And we are in the tribunal with him. Members of our party are asking that if you are in the tribunal contesting an election, why will you, in all good conscience, accept appointment from another government that you don't trust and you are in the tribunal trying to take out? So what happens if tomorrow there is going to be a rerun? Where will your loyalty lie? Because you must be committed to a cause. So you are just there that every kind of food you see you must feed on. Even dogs select the kind of food and where they eat the food. You cannot be collecting appointments from an APC government that is in court. Your party has taken them to court. If the result tomorrow come and say, go and do a rerun, God forbid, where will the loyalty of Asu Okang be? Who will he be working for? We do not know. 2, those who have already gotten the result that brought us to this point where we are looking for appointment, can you give such a prime appointment? And of course, Section 14, sub 7 of our Nigerian Constitution is very clear about the distribution of state wealth. That it should be spread in such a manner that no area, on account of religion, on account of color or sex, or tribe, be neglected or discriminated against. If you have an SSG from that local government in our state, and you are now doing another appointment, and the governorship candidate is even from that same ward, the same ward, is it fair? Is it equitable distribution that 6 local governments in a senatorial district, 18 local governments in a state, such economic benefit, such social and political benefit and reward should be concentrated in one local government? That is the first point to make. I do not agree with those who are claiming that oil producing area should produce NDDC membership. That is not where we are. First of all, is he deserving? Did he work for this government for which you want to benefit? And those who worked, I can tell you, some of them are not even in that community for voting for APC. Courtesy of this same beneficiary. He's a young man, very energetic, but I expect that he should be able to come out to say, look, I am not part of you, I won't accept an appointment from you. I want to believe, because so far he has not come out to celebrate. He has not come out to say he has accepted that appointment. So I believe that he's considering rejecting the appointment. I want to believe that Asokang is an ideologue, because when Governor Ayade left PDP for APC, he was the Commissioner for Information. He refused to move with the governor. So that integrity that stood him out, I want him to demonstrate it now, and he will put himself on the history books for taking that decision. In Offa, in 2008, local government election, a councillorship candidate of PDP was about to be inaugurated. He came out and collected the microphone and said that he didn't win the election, that an ACN councillorship candidate defeated him, that he will not accept to be sworn in. He left the place. In Kano State, Shekerau, in this last election, NNPP won. His name was on the ballot. He rejected it. It is not everything that you see that you collect. We want to see integrity in a young person like that. He's a youth. He's a young person. Let him start by leading by example. He has not accepted this appointment. I want to see him come out to say, I will not accept it because I don't even believe in APC, because I'm not part of it. I rejected going there with my governor. And even talking about the governor who brought...
Mr. Cletus, should these kinds of criticisms be happening? Should these kinds of criticisms be happening in a country striving for unity? I guess the president talked about government of national unity, but he also talked about government of national competence.
That is why I asked you before. That's why I made the point before now. Is you saying that from his ward, from his village, if you go and set exam, he will come first, that there's no other person there, and in the next local government, there will be no other person there? We are saying that we cannot sacrifice national unity on the altar of competence, or competence on the altar of national unity. You must find the middle point for the two. Get the most competent person from the most qualified place. We can afford that. It is not impossible. It is difficult. If you get a B, a 60% from a person who got 70%, all of them have passed that exam. They have Bs. The other one has B, the other one has an A, but all of them have passed. You get a 2-1, the other one gets a 2-2. The other one gets a first class, you get a second class upper. You've all passed the exam, you've all had your degrees and earned your degrees. So we are not in any way in a political game of this nature going to pigeonhole ourselves, chain ourselves to the apron strings of competence and the phantom of integrity. We cannot. Such phantom integrity cannot continue to be used as a yardstick for perpetuating injustice, discrimination, abandonment, and negligence. It cannot. So he is coming from a local government, one of the smallest local governments in Cross River State, but there are other local governments that can take that position and still keep us. Like I said, the SSG is from there, a qualified professor, former vice chancellor, sitting down there. So he covers that local government. The essence of political offices is, one, for continuously attaining and achieving the aims and objectives called the manifesto of the party. Two, in the most competent way, ensure that quality delivery of service to the people, what you call the division of democracy, is attained by the best brains that you can find and the best persons. You might have the best brain without the best heart, and you are going to have a bad government. So, government is run on the basis of empathy. A government must have the empathy of its people. It must cry with the people and laugh with the people at every occasion and every time.
So we also heard his nomination attracted protest in the state. Why this?
What? Come again.
We also heard his nomination attracted protest in the state. Why go to that extent?
Well, like I said, These are people who have sat in opposition for 16 years. They are coming into government for the first time in Cross River State, and they are seeing themselves again being deprived. Some of those people you see protesting, they have been out of government since 1999. They've never tasted government at all. Cross River has never produced anything outside PDP until Governor Yade came in 2021 into APC. We have never ever seen, we have been in opposition. I have been the leader of opposition, so I can speak about it authoritatively and audaciously. There is no, we've never tasted it. We've never had it. Now that we have it, we have people with PhDs, we have people who are businessmen who have been sponsoring the party in opposition with the expectation that a day like this will come. And then you are depriving them at the last minute, at the only opportunity they have. This is the only opportunity they have. This is the first opportunity they have. And you are showing them that it doesn't pay to be hardworking in politics, that there's no reward for loyalty or for commitment, and that anything can happen once you have anybody to sit on the high table and dictate and throw at you whatever you can take. Please, now there are beavers. There will be elections in 2027. We cannot afford it.
The APC has a new leadership. How will you advise the party? Mr. Cletus. The APC has a new leadership. How will you advise the party to ensure inclusion?
Yes, Governor Ganduje is a tested administrator. Don't forget he's a bureaucrat. He left bureaucracy into politics and been governor for 8 years. Coming to run party for him now should be less cumbersome. All he requires now is fair-mindedness, broad-mindedness, to consult as much as possible. Inclusion. Let me tell you, the political man for people like us who have run parties in a state as opposition, there is nothing that pleases a political actor than calling him to a meeting and making him feel that he's part of the decision, even when that decision is against him. Even if that decision is against him. I remember Adam Soshimole, as national chairman, did that to us when we had an intractable crisis between the minister then and the rest of the state executive council. He called us to a meeting into one room. And when we started the discussion, and somebody said, look, the number of my own supporters are not here. Comrade Adam Soshimole reminded us that we didn't come to vote, we came to discuss. And after that, everybody was satisfied. Those who were not satisfied were very few. Of course, you don't expect everybody to be satisfied. So inclusion means consultation, deep consultation with key stakeholders. Any person, you can build this studio with 500 million naira. You need only 500 naira to burn it down. So destruction is the cheapest thing that even the biggest fool can undertake. Building, construction, structuring is what takes the wise, the brave, and the broad-minded to do. So my take on this from experience and exposure in party administration is that Governor Ganduje should, as national chairman, where there are such crises, identify, consciously, painstakingly identify stakeholders in each of those areas. Bring them to the discussion table. And once a decision is taken there, everybody will be satisfied knowing that that is a decision of the collective. If you have 50 people in a room and 45 of them say one thing and 5 people say they are not and they feel they are powerful, they will cast a vote and you will get your decisions taken and implemented.
So let's move away from...
So for me, the inclusion here means bringing everybody on board, and as much as possible, don't be tired of calling meetings. Don't be tired. We are in government, so you cannot say you don't have the resources. We can't be having ministers, we can't be having National Assembly members and having a president, and we still don't have resources to run a party and keep the peace so that we win election and give Nigerians the best form of governance that we ever thought about.
All right, let's move away from party politics to governance now. What areas do you want the president to focus on to revive the economy?
Well, the government has taken off so well, I can tell you. One of the structural things to do presently is to break the ring, the stranglehold of corrupt officials. Who are these corrupt officials? They are being identified and fingered, but our government must learn to punish. In the last government, I remember the last president's wife saying that people are not being punished and that's why they have the gumption to continue to do that. As we speak now, this government must come out to be ready to punish every person who is identified to have offended our laws in terms of corruption. For anything to happen in security, because that is one of the biggest challenges we have now, the security of the country. You can do nothing in the economy. Nobody will go to any farm if bandits are waiting to kidnap you. Nobody will go to a stall if they say stay at home on Mondays in Enugu Ogbete market, in Ariaria market, in Gariki market in Enugu. You cannot be improving the economy of the Southeast with that kind of policy. People won't go to farm in Zamfara and produce beans. People won't go to farm to produce yam in Zakibiam, in Taraba State. People are not going to go to farm to produce bananas in Bumaji, in Boki local government, when they know that if they go there, they will return. Therefore, the first thing to do is to stem the insecurity in the country. If you don't do that, you can't even go to school. Your schools should be shut down because people can't even go from their houses to school, and lecturers are not going to be able to go there. Doctors can't go to their clinics, they'll be kidnapped. So security first. To improve the economy, you must shut down everything about insecurity in the country. That's the first step to take. The second thing,
we're running out of time.
Hello?
We're running out of time. We're not running out of time, but quickly before I let you go, the judgment of the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal is being awaited. What are your expectations? And if the court orders a rerun, where would that leave the APC? In 30 seconds.
That is the most unlikely thing to happen, because if you were in court, if you ever attended one of the court sessions, you will discover that the lawyers will tell you it is a no-case submission. Clearly, what you find there is speculative accusations and allegations that were never proven, and some of them that are of criminal nature, you must in fact prove your case beyond all reasonable doubt, even shadow of doubt. In this case now, because with the beavers, you can no longer go. If there's going to be a rerun, I think already APC is the only party now surviving. PDP is in tatters, the umbrella is shattered, the rains are beating them, and they are, in fact, battle-weary. The Labour Party, I don't know who their chairman is, I don't know who will now go and present them. They are already in danger of existence, expiring on their own, self-liquidation. And then, of course, NNPP, you heard today, Kwankwaso is being suspended, he is suspending others. So you can see that the rerun is already made. If at all, the very unlikely thing to happen is a rerun. If that happens, it will be a one-horse race, not even a two-horse race, because none of the other parties are stable enough and organized enough to be able to withstand an election. In any case, it cannot happen because they have nothing presented in court. All you have heard is social media trial and conviction. That cannot withstand our jurisprudence. And I imagine that everybody who has been following, in fact, by PDP members accepting appointments in APC, what does that tell you? It means that they have considered that there is nothing to go for, and they have no case in court. Because if they had any hope, they will reject it and say, look, we are hoping to win our case. Therefore, we have no need for this appointment. Whether the case of Asukang in Karaba or whether the cases in Abuja of Wike, it is only a conclusion, an acceptance, an admission that the parties have all collapsed and APC is just waiting to carry the day. That is why Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu must bring his best hands and his best men to be able to parade and paddle this canoe of Nigeria to safe havens. And so that when we bet...
Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful conversation
there's new hope
with you tonight. Mr. Cletus Obum, scholar and political analyst, as we focus on the APC and the inclusion challenge. Thank you so much for coming on the program and for your perspective on our discussion tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, and may God bless our fatherland.
Thank you so much for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But the conversation continues from here. Get in touch with us on Twitter at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke OO using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Goodbye.
Get in on the action with Betano, your exciting destination for thrilling sports betting. Enjoy an award-winning experience with amazing betting options. Cash out